Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today is a brand new update for my Toxicity build, the Stamina Dragonight. This happens to be my main character, the one I do everything with, amongst all the other different servers that I'm on. And this is designed to be a single target damage over time build. It does have AoE, but it's mostly focused on single target. It has a lot of fire and forget, so if you do have to go into mechanics, it won't matter. You can still reach, you can still do damage, all that good stuff. And again, this is designed for the advanced player. If you're new, if you're inexperienced, you can still try this out. You will still get very positive results, and you'll have more to gain the better you get at it. But it's going to be tricky first off if you're not too familiar with how this all works. But don't worry, I'm going to explain everything in the video to the smallest detail so you understand it, even if you're unsure. Also, this build has been around for about 6 years, one of the earliest builds on my channel, and is still sticking to its basic design. Now, while I said advanced, I mean its basic design of single target damage over time, melee range, and long range combined. Sustainability, survivability is all there. Everything is still where it should be, but there are some changes this patch. So we're going to go over the basics first of all, as far as stats are concerned. Now, stats don't mean everything, but it's nice to have a base so you can see where you're starting. Now, bear in mind, obviously, there will be buffs and bonuses in your groups occasionally. This can be somewhat altered. So to start with, we are sitting on 13k Magicka, 25k max health, 31k max stamina, almost 32. We've got 5.5k weapon damage. That does actually go up to about 6 with our own buffs and bonuses in combat, but with a group that will go up to about 8k, depending on your buffs. Your weapon crit is currently sitting on 56. That will actually go up to about 60. And our resistances are sitting on 14, almost 15k, and 13.3k. They will actually go up if you get major and minor resolve from your group to around sort of a happy 23, 22k resistances. It's not the highest, but it's not bad. Recovery bonuses are so-so, 951 stamina and a decent 400 health recovery. You can benefit from other food if you want to enhance both of those, but just bear in mind your health and your stamina are going to go down. That's the gold stuff, the Arteum takeaway broth. Less damage, more recovery, entirely up to you. Now, we are using all of our attribute points in one area. We're putting them all into stamina, so 64 points there. And we've got the Thief Munda Stone. That will give us more crit chance, so we can hit harder sometimes. Now, the food we're using, it's bugged there. It doesn't say any numbers at all, but it's basically for 5.3k max health and almost 5k max stamina. As the highest flat bonuses you'll get for both resources at the same time from any food. There's 3 different variants to that, but basically max health, max stam. If you are struggling with your resources, you got 2 options. Heavy attack, especially if you can keep track of off balance, or you can use Arteum takeaway broth, which I just mentioned a moment ago, where you'll have less health, less stamina, but you will have higher recovery for both health and stamina. So the choice is yours. Now, we're going to go into the skills in detail. If you are already familiar with these skills, you don't have to bore yourself with the details if you don't want to. But bear in mind, I will go over some tiny bits and pieces here and there that may be unfamiliar with you. So it may pay you to pay attention for this particular section. Again, it's up to you if you want to skip it. So, first of all, we are using, of course, Venomous Claw, the strongest single target damage over time in the game if you don't include the Jesus Beam. As a fire and forget skill, it's very, very powerful, but it comes with a price. And the price is quite simple. Leave it running. Starts off as Searing Strike, morph it to Venomous Claw for the poison variant, lasts 24 seconds, and the longer it lasts, the more damage it does. So don't spam this for its initial hit, just apply it. Take advantage of the initial hit when it lands, but the dot will get stronger the longer you leave it running. Try and get this down to 0, if not at least the last 2 seconds. This also guarantees a poison status effect on target, which will enhance your damage output overall because it will give you a 6-second damage over time. Poison status effects are 6 seconds damage, and it's poison damage. Now, poison damage is the same as physical. It follows the same rules. The difference is the status can fire from it. So while this is guaranteed to fire at the beginning, it could still fire per tick as you go. That's unlikely to happen very, very often, but it can still happen. So it's not just on the initial hit. You could continuously fire it, and sometimes you do. Keep that running at all times. Barb Trap, quite simple. This is in the Fighters Guild skill line. This needs to go on the ground underneath the target. After a short period of time, it will pop and do initial damage in the form of bleed damage. Now, bleed, again, is the same as physical in the way that it stacks or is considered with your stats. And it's the same as poison and all that good stuff. The difference is the status effect. So poison damage follows the same rules as physical, but has a status effect of a dot. Bleed has the same rules, but has a status effect of hemorrhage. So it can apply a damage over time skill to it in the form of hemorrhage, but that also does lessen the health of the target by 10% depending on the type of target it is. If it's a boss, it doesn't affect it. If it's a mini, it doesn't affect it. If it's regular trash, it does. So while this pops, it will hit with bleed damage and then do 20 seconds damage over time. This has a higher chance than most abilities to apply hemorrhage, so it's very likely this is going to happen. So you've got two skills here that are both single target damage over time that have a guaranteed, first of all, and a high chance to apply the two status differences. Again, both of them are damage over time, both of them have their own unique effects, both of them are chance-based, but they're quite high. Do not let this run out, because while this is active, you also gain minor force, increasing your critical damage by 10%. Keep that running, even if it's not going to stay on the target because it's going to die, take the buff. Consuming Trap. This is in the Soul Magic skill line. You get this for nothing. You just need to upgrade it with one skill point. You have this at the beginning of the game. Basically, you put this on the target. It does damage over time for 20 seconds. Very high damage, actually, especially with this particular build. And it does magic damage. Now, again, if your status chance is lucky, you can still do the same damage as you would with a physical dot because of your stats, but it will apply the magic status effect, which allows minor magic steal, so people can get resources back for hitting it. That's not very likely to happen with the build that we're using because there isn't a heightened chance on this particular skill, but it could. In the meantime, the most important thing about this, apart from it being damage over time and costing magicka, so it's helpful for our stamina sustainability, is the fact that if it dies, if the target dies, whether the dot has more time on it or whether it just pops from 1 second or whatever, it doesn't matter how long is left on the dot. If the target dies, you will get 20% of all of your max resources back. So your health, your stamina, and your magicka will all fill up by 20% of the maximum that you have. That can stack. So if you put this on multiple targets and they all die before the dot runs out, you will get 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. Really, really handy for resource management. Means you can basically not ever run out of juice if you're keeping an eye on targets, and it will require a little bit of micromanaging. On single target, it's easy. Fire, forget, recast it when it's done. Multiple targets, make use of it. You can fill your bar in seconds. Next up is your main spammable. This is in the dual wield skill line. We're using dual wield on the front. There's two choices to this. Starts off as flurry, morph to rapid strikes. This is the bread and butter for the build. It must be used. Otherwise, it won't work properly. If you use this version, you will get more damage. Not a massive amount, but you will. You stab, 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 stab over a 0.8 second period. It is a channel, and you can stop it. Of course, it does have an ability to just block or move or swap bars or whatever to stop the ability, but obviously that's where the damage will stop there. So try and let it run its course if you can. But each hit increases the damage of the previous one by 5%. So stab, 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 hit harder, harder, harder. If you do have trouble with your survivability, you can change this to the other morph, which is Bloodthirst, and that will basically allow the same physical damage, except it won't have the extra bonus to the damage per hit. You will lack that part. But instead, what will happen is your damage done will heal you. So you can stab, 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 and a percentage of that will give you health back. So the more you weigh into the target, the more you survive, basically. There is a very small amount of difference as far as the DPS is concerned between the two, so the choice is honestly 100% up to you. Next up, same applies. Rend and Slashes, second ability in the dual wield skill line, starts off as twin slashes, morph it to rend and slashes if you want the extra damage. Now this applies bleed, which is again physical damage, with a rule to it. It could apply a status effect. But with an extra bonus to this particular skill, while that bleed could happen, so the hemorrhage status effect could apply per tick if you're lucky, and does apply minor mangle, which reduces health, and does apply the damage over time from hemorrhage. This comes with the same bonus as Venomous Claw. This guarantees its status on initial cast. This has a high chance. This guarantees it. Enemies hit by the initial cast are affected by hemorrhage status effect, guaranteed. So if it runs out, you could just reapply the skill and guarantee 100% uptime on that status effect. Even though you've got chance to apply here and chance to apply per tick, it can just be consistently kept up by you if you can micromanage it. Really, really, really nuts to have that amount of status effect constantly ongoing. Now, just bear in mind, of course, this is the higher damage variant. The other variant is pretty much exactly the same, but it will heal you for damage done over a period of time, but the initial hit is less. So again, less damage, not much though, and more survivability. Now, there is one swap out for this if you prefer. In some content, you might have lots and lots of ads. They might be dying quite quickly. You might want to help finish them off. If that's the case, put on Word and Blaze instead. You will be lacking this particular skill, but since you're not hitting single target too much, apart from maybe on the boss fight, you've now got an area of effect execute. That is a choice that you can make. It's entirely up to you. But be careful, it is quite expensive, so if you overspam it, you might have to heavy attack to get your juice back. Dawnbreaker on the front bar, nice and simple. Fighters Guild skill line. It is a nice skill. It does give you 300 weapon and spell damage for activating it for 20 seconds, and it does do decent damage in area of effect in front of you for a short period of time, and it's cheap. But technically speaking, we use this for its passives. We're going to get to the passives later, but we want this on the bar for passive bonuses only. If you need to use it in an emergency to get resources back, then of course you can. That, again, will be explained in the passive because we do have a bonus for the DK that will utilize ultimates to give us resources back if we're short. It's an emergency ultimate. The rest of the time, just leave it on the bar. This is a swap out. So if you're in a situation where your group is really, really good and they can keep you alive without you doing too much stupid and you rely on them to keep you alive, and that's your thing, that's what you want to do, then you can use this skill. Put it on your bar, starts off as Lava Whip, morph it to Molten Whip. Never, ever press it. Never press it, because you don't want to consume the bonus. This is quite simple. While it is on your bar, this particular bar, any Ardent Flame abilities you use, and we technically have 3 with the Breath and the Inferno and the Ultimate. Anytime you use an anytime you use an Ardent Flame ability, you will give yourself a bonus for 15 seconds. This can stack 3 times. So once, 15-second ticking down. If you activate it again, it'll start the timer again, but you get a second stack. If you activate it again, you'll get a third stack, and it'll start the timer again. If you can maintain those stacks just by reapplying one of those skills once every 15 seconds, you will hold on to 300 weapon damage and spell damage constantly. That will enhance your DPS output, but it's not the end of the world. If you can't maintain that, and it is built into the rotation, it will never run out, but if you can't maintain that, and you're in mechanics and you get confused, or you just die a lot, or your healers aren't very good, or whatever, then of course you can swap it out for a survival skill. You can go into the assault skill line, and you can get Echoing Vigor. The other one will help you survive more, but it's a shorter duration. This one is a longer duration, and it heals everyone around you. This one is more beneficial in group situations. I would recommend this, because I can't tell you how many times I've actually had to use this to keep other people alive because someone's doing something dumb. More damage if you want to use that, and it does carry over to the front bar. Less damage, but more survival. There's not a lot in it, but if you really do want to have that extra damage, you can, of course, utilize this. Just maintain this and this at least once every 15 seconds, and this won't run out. Again, it carries over to the front bar, and what it looks like is this. Nice and simple. Your eyes are glowing. So if your eyes are glowing, great. If they're not, then whoops. But the easier trick for that is to look at the buff timers at the bottom there. You can see that there's the eyes with the number in it. 1, 2, 3. Full stacks are in. Even if I swap bars, I still keep it. All you need to do is reactivate one of those skills, and it'll restart the timer. Anyway, next. Poison Injection is very, very important for this particular build. This must be on the target at all times. Bear in mind, if you've used this build in the past, you may have been used to 10-second timers on the dots. They're 20 now. They're very, very long, so this is a lot easier to use in comparison to before, but you might have to micromanage a bit for certain things. This needs to be on the target all the time. Does poison damage initially on the initial hit, then it does poison over time for 20 seconds, and the lower the target's health, the more damage it will do. And based on our setup, this will increase our overall damage furthermore, so do not let this run out. Noxus Breath, Ardent Flame skill line. Third one you unlock, starts off as Fiery Breath, obviously morph it to Noxus Breath for the poison variant. Poison damage in area of effect, uncapped targets as far as that's concerned. It can hit as many as you like, as long as they can reach. But after then, only 6 of them will continue with a poison damage over time on them. So single target is easy, area of effect targets then up to 6. But the initial burst will hit all of them. During this time, all of the enemies will be affected with Major Breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5, 9, 4, 8, which is the same as a stab from a taunt. The only difference is you don't have minor. So if someone's got minor, you've got the major, you're done. You've got those debuffs in the room. Maintain this at all times if you can. It is expensive, so don't overspam it. It lasts 24 seconds, which is a crazy amount of time for damage over time. Same as Venomous Claw. Again, don't let it run out. Flames of Oblivion. Really simple. Last ability in this skill line. Starts off as Inferno, morph it to this particular morph. The other one heals. Activate this, and after over 15 seconds, it will constantly fire out fireballs once every 5, dealing damage, and it will give you Major Prophecy and Savagery while it's on your bar. That is not so important because we're going to be swapping bars quite a lot and we're going to be using potions for that, but it's a nice bonus nonetheless if your potion ran out, maybe something went wrong, but you do benefit from that regardless. It costs magicka, which helps for our stam sustainability, and it scales off of your highest offensive stats anyway, as do all skills, so you've got some extra fire damage in there. Now, bear in mind, you could do burn-in status effects from that, but we've technically got that covered elsewhere, but if you did, then happy days. These two skills here will have quite long timers on them, 15 and 24, so it's quite easy to maintain them. But remember, as long as you maintain at least one of them every 15 seconds, you'll keep your whip bonuses and you won't lose that damage. Endless Hail. Now, I know people are going to scream Arrow Barrage. Wrong. Arrow Barrage does do more damage during its duration, but because it's such a short duration in comparison to this, it fluffs your rotation completely and you end up doing less damage because there's too many gaps. So this actually, with a higher uptime, benefited a lot more. In fact, about 6 or 7k DPS difference. This needs to go on the ground and just leave it there until it's ready to be cast again. Bear in mind, however, it lasts 13 seconds, and the duration, I know it says 15. There's a 2-second delay. Put it on the ground, damage over time in an area of effect, great, but every 13 or so seconds you want to recast it because the 2-second wind up means it doesn't do any damage during that time. It doesn't take time to cast it, it takes time for the ability to take effect. So it's an insta-cast ability with a 2-second delay. Every 13 seconds, reapply it. It's quite simple. If you see a timer down to 2 seconds, cast it again. That must be on the ground at all times. That will keep control of your glyph. Standard of Might. Bread and butter for the DK. Do not leave home without this. Ardent Flame skill line does contribute towards your whips if you do end up using it on that bar, obviously. And it does an insane amount of damage. Drop this on the ground. It's quite expensive. It does fire damage over time for everyone caught inside of this. It reduces their healing, increases your survivability, and increases all the damage you're currently doing or had running by 15%. And it has a nasty synergy attached to it where enemies can be shackled to it and a big flame burst happens. This is what you should be using all the time. That is for your emergencies. If you've got a short amount of ulti, you are in trouble with your resources, pop this, fine. It's a survival option. But for the most part, for the damage output side of things, use Standard of Might all the time. It's very, very powerful. Now we're going to get into passives and start making sense of this, hopefully. So, Combustion. Increases the damage of your burning and poison status effects by 50%. That is insane. So basically, your poison status effects from Venomous Claw, which is guaranteed on the first cast, then could apply every other tick alongside your Noxus Breath, which could apply as well. Those bonuses there are strong. So the extra status damage is going to be even more for you as a Dragonknight. Same goes for fire. If we have our Flames of Oblivion fires it, or our Glyph does on our weapon, which we do have, then of course that's going to be stronger. Bear in mind, as part of the setup, we do have burning status effects a lot, and it is going to be a big contributor towards our overall damage output. There's another bonus on top of that. If you apply poison, or if you apply burning, you will get back 1,000 magicka for burning and 1,000 stamina for poisoned. And this can happen individually, each one separately, every 3 seconds if you're lucky. No quicker than that, but 3 seconds or more, you can constantly get back that resource, which is really, really handy. Do not leave home without this passive. This increases your Ardent Flame abilities and allows them to basically snare stuff if the direct part of the skill hits. Flames of Oblivion, Noxus Breath, and Venomous Claw all have an insta hit, a direct hit initially. They all count towards that bonus. Increases the damage over time for Fiery Breath, Searing Strike, and Dragonknight Standard. So that is your Venomous Claw, your Noxus Breath, and your Banner. All of those have a higher duration and they do more damage. And this increases your damage done with fire and poison attacks. We are built pretty much for fire and poison. Fire here, poison here, poison here, fire here. We've got loads of it. Plus, one of our sets is full of fire as well. It's really, really important to get that passive. As a DK, you do more fire and poison than anybody else in the game. These passives are important for 2 of them. Well, technically 3, but 2 of them are not going to be so important for their overall bonus. So this one is block damage reduced by 10%. Great, get it. This one requires you to have one of these skills, so that's not going to help you very much. So don't bother with that one unless, of course, you want to slot resistance buff in place of Flames of Oblivion, but then you're going to have to watch your whip. It's up to you how you want to go about that, but if you don't have one of those skills, this is useless. Same goes for this one to a point. So the health recovery is not going to benefit you, but The second part of it is you need a skill from this skill line on this bar in order to take advantage of the health recovery bonus. 0% at the moment, as you can see. But even if you don't have a skill slotted, you increase the range of your melee attacks by 2 meters, and this can only apply on insta-cast attacks with a 5-meter range. So your rapid strikes is not going to benefit from this, but your dots and your light attacks will. So any melee-based skills that you use that are instant. So this will, and your light attacks will. So be very careful where you're standing with rapid strikes. That can sometimes get a bit awkward. But for the 2 dots in general, you can sneak back a little bit and you can still reach. And finally, of course, physical and spell resistance. Take it. Earth and Heart is very important for lots of different reasons, but not as much as it used to be for this particular build. So we're not using any of these skills, unless, of course, you decide to go for the ultimate, and then you can have corrosive armor, which is something you can read on your own time. We're not going to go over that. There's an emergency ulti. But increases your Earth and Heart abilities by 20%. If you're using that ulti, great. If you're not, don't worry. Going to come back to Battle Roar. Mountain's Blessing. Your Earth and Heart abilities will give minor brutality to you in the group. Hopefully you got a DK in your group already. Spam an Igneous Shield or something so you can have that bonus with you. If not, then you're not bringing it because this build doesn't support that. And you'll get ulti back normally. Again, we don't need it. This, we also don't need. This has been changed. Actually buffed to some extent, although altered for those that were cheesing it. And yes, I did a little bit on the Almost Immortal Warrior. It was there, why not? Basically, if you use a magic costing ability, you will get stamina back. Used to be 990, now it's 1120. So if you were spamming maybe Igneous Shields or Molten Weapons, these two actually, they both cost magic. Great, you get loads of stam back. But if you're using something that is magical costing and it costs less than 1120, so this, for example, it costs every second and it's much less, you won't get that back. They changed it so you couldn't manipulate this. Anyway, if you're using Igneous or something on a tank, or maybe if you go for Molten Weapons, maybe for this build, whatever, or even that, then you will benefit from this, but we are not. Now, while that's again, explained but not so important, this is. Battle Roar is a must. Use an ultimate, get resources back for every ultimate point spent. Cheaper the ultimate, the less you get back. The more expensive, the more you get back. So that is why I've said initially, this is an emergency ultimate. If you have a low amount of ultimate at the moment and you are in trouble, fire this, you'll get resources back, it'll keep you alive. Failing that, use this all the time. You'll get the most back that you can for this particular setup. And one major tip. You are gaining resources from dropping this. So there's no point you dropping it when you're full. Use your resources, get your dots firing, go down to half or something if you really want to, and then drop it and gain it all back. Otherwise, you're just firing a blank banner. Sure, you're doing more damage, but now you start dipping into the negative, whereas you could have filled it in the first place. So use it, get it back, use it, get it back. Don't just try to get some back and have nothing, because then you're just firing blanks. Anyway, dual wield obviously is very, very important. We are utilizing a lot of the skill line. This will increase the damage done to low health targets. We don't have an execute as such unless you're using Whirling Blades, but that does stack with this. So any light attack, heavy attack, or rapid strikes, random strikes, or Whirling Blades that we apply during their low health automatically counts as an execute anyway because it gets stronger. We have more weapon and spell damage on our offhand, because usually you don't, unless you have this passive. Reduces the cost of dual wield abilities. That's handy. We are using them. That helps to get the cost down. Gives you a bonus to basically CC'd enemies. You'll do a 15% damage bonus to light attacks, heavy attacks, and dual wield skills. And you have a bonus for different weapon types. We are actually using 2 daggers, so we get 8/12 crit chance per dagger. If you were using different weapons, you would get different bonuses per weapon. You can mix and match, but for this particular build, we're using the crit chance bonus from having the daggers specifically. We have 2, so we've got 1600 crit chance. If that's confusing, basically 219 points is 1% crit chance. Bow is obviously important. The longer distance you are away from the target, up to about 20 meters where the kind of cap is, you will do 12% extra damage. So if you are in a ranged fight and you are utilizing your bow effectively, then of course you will still do decent damage from range. Increases your crit chance to 1, 3, 1, 4 while on that bar. Slightly less than the 2 daggers, but it's still nice. Reduces the cost of the bow skill lines. This is quite expensive, and so is this, so that's going to help. And also, Hawkeye is incredibly important. For this particular build, you must maintain light attacks. If you maintain 1 light attack every 5 seconds, that is a bit wide, but still, if you do, you'll maintain the stacks of one of your sets. If you do the same for your bow, then you will stack up Hawkeye passives, which will increase your damage with your bow by 5% per stack, up to 25. We're not probably going to maintain a full 25% most of the time, unless you go to the back bar a lot and sneak in a light attack. But at least for the time that we're there, we will benefit from a small bonus each time. So make sure you light attack, especially when you're on your bow bar, to maintain this bonus as much as you can. Again, in an extreme situation when there's lots and lots of mechanics going on, you probably won't maintain it, but you'll keep some of the stacks every so often, or at least have bursts of extra damage along the way. You can, I'll put this out there, you can be very, very clever with your passives and micromanage the crap out of it and maintain this, but that's a lot of bar swapping, and you can actually lessen your overall DPS because you're not on the front bar where most of the damage is most of the time. So just bear in mind that is something you can do, but you will be slightly less effective. Although it's cool to show off. Major expedition for dodge rolling. Simple. Dodge roll, you run faster for 4 seconds. Quick tip, don't dodge roll too close to a previous one. You'll be penalized with a higher cost. We are using 2 pieces of light armor on purpose. 1, because it's part of the set, and 2, because we can take advantage of some bonuses. So this will give us reduction to effectiveness of snares. We basically don't get snared so much, and reduction to cost of sprint. This will give us magical recovery and reduction to cost per piece, which is 2. And that is also quite helpful because we are using 2 magicka skills. This will increase your spell resistance, which is quite nice. And this will increase your crit chance. The crit rating we've got at the moment is only a 2% bonus from this, but we'll take it nonetheless. More importantly, 1800, almost 1900 penetration. As a medium build, you stack weapon and spell damage, you stack crit damage, but you don't have any penetration to those bonuses. With the 2 pieces of light armor, we have almost 2k penetration, which is very, very helpful to getting through the target's resistances. Medium, of course, is very important. We are using 5 pieces. So 10% extra crit damage, extra recovery for our stamina, and reduction to cost for stamina abilities. Better sneaking, whoopie-doo. Increases weapon and spell damage by 10%, and of course increases our movement speed and reduction to dodge roll costs. So we can run faster and it's cheaper all at the same time. And of course we can spend less resources on evading. Fighter's Guild is important, of course. Intimidating Presence reduces the cost of this ability. 15% reduction. This increases your weapon and spell damage by 3% per ability on your bar from this skill line. We have 2. 1 here and 1 here. Yes, I said this was here for passives. That's the passive. Banish the Wicked is important, of course. If you kill an enemy, you generate 3 ultimate per kill. That's just by having Fighter's Guild on your bar. So if you're on the back bar, that won't count. If you're on the front bar, that will. And your Fighter's Guild abilities deal additional 10% damage to werewolves and vampires and such if they're players. Obviously, it doubles if they are. But in general, it just increases the damage over all of the skills. We're going to be in PvE the majority of the time because it's a PvE build. So the player side of it is not important, but the flat damage is. Mage's Guild, no, not using any of those. Undaunted, yes, very important. Take the synergies. They give you resources back. I don't know how else to explain that. Pick them up. They benefit you. You get stuff back. Moving on. We're using 2 different types of armor. Light and medium. So for the 2 different types, we get 2% to all resources per type. We've got 4%. More health, more stamina, more magicka. Don't need any of those. We are an orc. No, you do not have to be an orc. You can be any race you like. Pick your poison. Bad pun, I know. But we have purposely chosen an orc for these benefits. We have more stamina. We have more health. Every 4 seconds when we deal damage, we can heal, and that can crit. And of course, we have higher weapon and spell damage, and we have reduction to sprint cost, and we run faster. We're quick, we heal, we're chunky, we've got resources. If you want to use anything else in the game, that's entirely up to you. But for the purpose of this video, we are using the orc because that flat out damage and survival wise work very, very well as a really good balance. There are other options in the game. None of them will break the build. You will just get different results. Medicinal use is very simple. I've explained this in so many videos, but I'm going to go over it again. Get this skill line to 50. Dump all your points if you want. You never have to make potions again, but get 3 points at least into medicinal use. If you do that, any potions you use will last 30% longer. We are using weapon pots, which is weapon damage, weapon crit, and stamina resources back, as well as stam recovery. We want to maintain those as long as possible, and with this bonus, they actually outlast their cooldown, so you can have 100% uptime on that buff. Okay, now we're going to get into the gear. Now, there are other options on the website for this. I'm going to explain the most optimal version of it, regardless of the situation. But if you have other ideas, you have previous setup versions, or you just want to use other stuff, you can, but you'll just get different results. It's not going to be the end of the world if you choose to use something else, but you won't get the same numbers. When we're talking numbers, we'll go over this more in the rotation, but you're looking at an average on that rigged target dummy over there. Yes, it's rigged. There's about 20 buffs and bonuses and synergies and such that don't even exist on it. But you're looking at a good average of a good player between 115 to 120k DPS on average. A good day, a good average is somewhere like 117, but you can hit 120 and you can go lower, depending on your experience. Just bear in mind, by the way, if you are struggling with this and you're very new to it and you just get a little bit lazy and you just spam rapid strikes on the front bar while maintaining 3 dots, you'll still hit 85k. But the overall full build working as intended between 115 and 120. Not that that's relevant for content, because content's completely different because buffs and bonuses vary like hell, and that's a crap gauge. But anyway, you get the idea. Let's go over gear. So, first of all, Maelstrom daggers, 2 of them. I know there's been lots of different variations of this build over time. Dagger sword, dagger axe, 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 dagger, dagger, sword, sword, whatever. This particular update, because of the stuff we're using, we're going with 2 daggers, 1 flame, 1 poison. Both of those apply a flat bonus to damage. Obviously, you do fire, you do poison, both at the same time in a hit. But because they're glyphs, they have a heightened chance to apply status effects, which means you've got more uptime on burning and poison. Remember, we do more damage with that. Those 2 are important. This particular weapon set you can get on normal or veteran. On normal, you won't have the 103 extra weapon and spell damage on the first piece bonus, or the 2-piece bonus, but you will benefit from the main point of this particular setup, and you will still benefit from the damage over time bonuses that it gives. It's no different on normal than it is on vet. It's just that the first bonus is different. So this basically allows your single target damage over time abilities to be stronger if you use flurry, rapid strikes, first. So you rapid strikes, dot, 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 dot until the timer runs out, and then do it again and then continue. You must fire rapid strikes before you apply a single target damage over time. That includes Venomous Claw, Beast Trap, some Consuming Trap, Rend and Slashes, yes, Poison Injection, and yes, Noxus Breath, because it counts as a single target damage over time for each target that it's on. It's limited to 6, obviously because of the debuff on it, but although the initial burst is area of effect, the damage over time is single target. They all count. This doesn't. Everything else does. So, you rapid strikes first, apply your dots, and when the 4-second timer runs out, you need to rapid strikes again and apply the rest of them. During that time, in between then, you just keep spamming. But that has to be fired first. That's the most important thing about this build. One more important thing is the back bar weapon. By the way, they're both precise. Yes, loads of others were tried. I'm not going to go over that. This was more optimal for the setup. Master's Perfected Bow. Yes, you can use the Maelstrom Bow. No, it wasn't as strong. It was nice. Very nice, especially in AoE situations. But single target, this was about 12k DPS difference. So this does have a bonus on the back bar with 103 weapon and spell damage, exactly the same, identical in fact to the daggers. So while the daggers only give us crit chance and no extra weapon damage bonus or whatever, although we've got 2 weapons, you can still carry that bonus over if you have the perfected version. If you don't, it's not the end of the world, the rest of it's the same. Increases your weapon and spell damage by 330 against targets affected by poison injection or poison arrow. That means if you fire this skill at the target, everything you do to it hits harder. So, to simplify, flurry first, so rapid strikes, then your dots. Poison injection has to stay on it. If you keep up those 2 rules, the rest is easy. We are using, obviously, Rune Carver's Blaze, the hat, the shoulder, and the jewelry. The jewelry needs to be weapon and spell damage, the physical version, so it adds stam recovery on all 3, and all 3 need to be bloodthirsty. Bloodthirsty was dramatically boosted this particular update because before it used to give you a boost at 90% health and under, which was around 70 weapon damage, and it would go up to 350 at the end. That's changed. Now it's about 270 up front at 90%, and then it gradually goes to 350 at the end. So you've got a lot more burst now, and you can consistently keep up that damage for a longer period of time rather than only having an execute. That made Infuse different because it now boosts other stuff more importantly rather than just weapon and spell damage, and now there's no longer that battle between the 2 of which one should I pick. If you want more damage, pick Bloodthirsty. Simple as that. Same glyph on all 3 of them. The reason we've gone on with the jewelry is because this is a light armor set. So we want to take advantage of the 2 light pieces on the head and the shoulder, or any other pieces. It's entirely up to you where. and we want the 3 jewelry. The other 5 pieces are, of course, Reliquin. We're going to go over what they do. Weapon and spell damage, and offensive pen. Almost 1.5k pen there. Not far off 1900 pen for our light armor bonuses. We've got really good penetration bonuses, plus we've got Noxus Breath for the debuff. That's really high for a physical build, if you like, or a stamina build. Your damage over time effects deal additional 1.8k flame damage every 3rd tick, and this damage scales off your weapon and spell damage and always applies a burn and status effect. So basically, 1, 2, 3, pop. 1, 2, 3, pop, as far as your dots are concerned, right? Correct. And during that time, burn and status effect, that's a 3-second dot as well. So they work in tandem with each other. It's a little bit more aggressive than that. So it's every 3rd tick of damage over time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage over time abilities running all the time. They all tick at different rates. Some of them 1 second, some of them 2 second, and every single 3 ticks of all your dots will fire that and guarantee a bonus status effect. So it's not 1 dot and track it every 3 seconds. This will fire multiple times rapidly. It's very, very powerful. So all you basically have to do, rapid strikes, keep up poison injection, keep up your dots. This will fire and do more damage than Reliquin. However, Reliquin is also a contributor to your high DPS because it gives you crit chance twice, a stam bonus if you have the perfected version, but you can have normal and you'll just lack the stam bonus. Everything else is the same. And for doing lights and heavy attacks, you'll stack up wins on the target. Bear in mind, you need to maintain this. You need at least 1 light attack every second, or between every 1 to 5 seconds, sorry. If you go over that, it will fall off. All your damage fell off. If you can't maintain those stacks, take off that set and use something else. Or practice. It's very important that you understand that you are using a bow, so in mechanics you can still fire light attacks from range while avoiding the stupid. If you can maintain your light attacks at least, these stacks will maintain on the target, and when you come back in, you'll still keep that damage upkeep. But if you don't and it falls off, you have to keep stacking this up from 1 to 10, 1 to 10 over and over and over, and you've got very inconsistent balance of damage, and you need to use something else. Again, the choice is yours. This is easy. Dot, 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 fire, fire, fire. Done. This one, keep up your light attacks. If you can't, practice or take it off. Everything in Divines, everything in Stamina. Pretty much it, actually. Now, we're going to go over champion points, then I'm going to explain rotation. So champion points, first of all. These are quite simple, although they look confusing. I know there's loads and loads of lights going off and it looks really scary, but it's not. These ones here, the white with the yellow aura, all of those are passive bonuses. You unlock them, you stack them, they don't need to be interacted with at all. Just unlock it, spend your points, done. They will stay with you forever. Doesn't matter if you're healer, DPS, tank, everyone can get these. But they do unlock other trees. So if you unlock this for the first 10 points, this tree becomes available to you. Now, while these may be lovely to look at, and they might be a little bit confusing, this is what you're looking at most of all. These blue ones are slottables. So you can only put 4 on at a time. So you got to make some choices. Now, what I would recommend you do, because it worked better for the build, is to put Wrathful Strikes on first of all. 205 extra weapon and spell damage to all of your stuff. Great. Then put Backstabber on only if you're behind the target. If you're not behind the target, you can use Fight and Finesse instead, or you can move over to this tree and you can use Weapons Expert for higher not weapon and spell damage, but higher damage towards your light and heavy attacks. Those are choices that you can make. It's entirely up to you. But the crit chance bonus is here if you want it for all content. That's about an 8% bonus, or the 10% bonus if you're behind the target. This tree here, you want to unlock all these as and when you can, especially the status ones. They're very important for your damage output. But again, if you unlock this, you can then access that if you need to. Over here, you want Deadly Aim and Thaumaturge for single target and damage over time. So for everyday use, basically, Wrathful Strikes, Backstabber or Fighting Finesse, Deadly Aim, and Thaumaturge. Those 4. This or this. If you find that you've got lots and lots of crit damage bonuses in your group, however, including Major Brittle, then you're going to overcap. There's no point. That's when you put on Weapons Expert instead. All the rest of them, little yellow ones here, unlock them in your own time. But 10 here and 10 here will unlock everything you need. Red tree, nice and simple. Same applies. These yellow ones are kind of prerequisites or in the way to unlock other stuff. They will benefit you no matter what. You don't have to activate anything or slot them. You just buy them and they're done. But Boundless Vitality for more health, fortified for more armor, rejuvenation for more recovery. Then, if you unlock this here, just get to halfway through it and unlock this tree. One section in there, so 10 points, will unlock this one. Max this out because it's more health. And then you can take this, which is Bloody Renewal, which will give you 1.5k stamina back for every kill you get. Yes, that does count in AoE situations. No, there isn't a cooldown. Green tree doesn't matter at all. Get this as soon as you can. You use less soul gems when charging up your weapons because you don't use as much juice. But that's handy. It's not going to change you in combat. These 4 I do recommend, but again, they're not going to affect combat. Higher quality loot from chests. Longer timer on your food. That can help towards your bank. You could use a potion and not consume it, but it still counts. That helps for your bank as well. And this one does actually make you run faster between fights. So if you're not in combat, you run quicker. That could contribute towards speed runs as long as everybody else is on the same page. But again, it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. These are all quality of life, so the choice is literally yours. None of these will affect your character's performance in combat. Now, the rotation, the juicy part. This is going to get really confusing for those that haven't seen this before, but don't panic. Take your time, practice, see what's what, understand all the different things that are going on at once rather than panicking. So here's a tip, first of all. Go to options, go to combat, and go to ability timers, which are here. Ability timers on and on your back bar. The reason for that is when you're in combat, if I fire this, for example, you can see there's a timer on my bar. And if I swap bars, there's a yellow bar counting down. If that goes near to 0, I need to reapply it. So I will. And that's it. Now here's the confusing part, because that's going to happen for a lot of things. This ability, they've got their timers running. If I swap, doesn't matter which bar I'm on, I can see their timers. It is going to get a little bit funky, but this is what you essentially need to do overall. When you first get into the fight, you want your beast trap down. Unless everyone's running already, maybe you've got minor force, run in with Endless Hail just to get started. Any target you encounter needs to have poison injection on it, because that will start your master's weapon bonus. So technically, when you start a fight, you want a beast trap, bar swap, volley, poison injection, and you've started. That's your main starting point. Prior to that, you can activate 3 lots of Inferno to bolster your whip bonus to give you that extra weapon and spell damage. If you don't have that on, it doesn't matter, there's no point, but you can pre-plan this one. Again, essentially, to start with, beast trap, swap, volley, light, poison injection. From there, breath, and swap. Now the rotation really starts. Now the dots are much longer than they used to be, so it's not as it's not quite as straightforward as it was before, but you have a lot more room for mistakes. So you have to light attack, and you need rapid strikes. When you do that, you've now got a buff on the buff timers down there. As you can see, the one that looks like stabs. While that's running, any damage over time you fire will be boosted. So that has to go down first. Venom, Rendon, Soul Trap. Ran out. Those are all buffed for now. When you ever swap bars, you need to do this. Light, Beast Trap, swap. Why? Beast Trap is bolstered, and it does an initial pop. So Rapids, Venom, Rendon, Soul Trap is your starting point, and then you spam Rapid Strikes like hell until your dots on the back are about to run out. Then you light attack, Beast Trap, swap, and reapply them. That's the easiest way to do it. And again, if they're not run out yet, just keep doing this. Keep an eye on your back bar. Swap that out if you have to. Go over and reapply. But if your front ones run out, it's not the end of the world. As long as you get them on nice and quick, with a rapid strike first, you're good. Keep an eye on the back ones. Now, that's the simple way to do it. I know I said simple. It's not simple. Maintain rapids and 3 dots on the front bar. Maintain beast trap at all times, and maintain volley, flames, breath, and poison injection. That's your trick. You need to keep an eye on those. Constantly track those. You can rapids, dot, 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 rapids, beast trap, swap, volley, light flames, light poison, light breath, like you did before. But the problem is they last so long now that that's going to overlap. If you want to still maintain that rotation from before, you can, but let's overlap them slightly. So instead of doing that and then rotating and starting again, and you'll overlap your dots by about 15 seconds, you can apply them all. And then when you get to the front, because they're on a high timer, you can spam rapid strikes like 3 or 4 times, maybe a bit more. And when volley's about to run out, swap, reapply your stuff, and then your dots will be ready to start firing again. They're all on. Happy days. Beast trap swap. So, to simplify, if you're confused already, which you probably are, volley must be down, flames must be on, breath must be on, poison injection must be on. On your front bar. Rapid strikes first, then apply your 3 dots. When your back bar dots start running out, rapids, beast trap, swap, do whatever needs to be done on your back bar if it hasn't run out already. Then go to the front. From there, you can simply spam this while maintaining anything that is about to run out. So if volley was about to run out, I could switch to the back bar, apply it, and come back again. Or that's running out, I could go there and carry on. There's no point in doing that if you're confused, though. The first part still counts. Get those dots on, maintain these back ones. What you can do is you can go, come on, apply these stuff here, nice and easy. Apply this stuff here. See, we're going in order. Then spend your next rotation spamming. Rinse, repeat, start again. So one rotation, you can dot, switch, apply them, switch back. Next one, spam, switch, apply them, switch back. Next one, reapply your dots again. So you can alternate if you want to, as far as your rotation is concerned. So maintain the front ones, maintain the back ones, and have that period where you just spam. That is one way to do it. It won't be quite as effective as being really, really efficient with your timers, but it will be very, very strong. If you can track your timers, that's when it'll be much higher. So if you're not very good at tracking them and you still play it like you used to, not a problem, you'll hit 100k. But if you can track them, you'll hit 120. Here's a prime example of how that would work. Basically, we're going to run out of juice here because we haven't got all the buffs and bonuses we really need, but apply all your stuff. Front dots need to be on. Volley's about to run out. So is Flames of Oblivion. So I'll just fire this and get back to the front. Spammy. Poison injection's about to run out. Swap, fire it, get the breath on. Rend and Slash is about to run out. Apply that. Flames and volley. You get the idea. Venom is on. And you basically keep doing that. Poison injection's about to run out. A lot of things are, actually. And you have to micromanage this stuff and keep on top of it. And when it comes to dropping your ulti, it's going to boost your DPS even further, and the longer you go into the fight, the more damage you're going to do. Eventually, you're going to end up with between 115 and 120. But again, that depends on whether you can track them or not. We'll do this once more the simple way. So there will be overlaps. But the simpler way is this. And this is for the lesser experience that don't want to track everything too much, but still have to kind of maintain some of it. Same starting point. Apply your dots. And then start your back bar again with anything that needs to fire. Spam on the front. Beast trap swap. Reapply your back bar. Front bar's about to go as far as dots are concerned. We are going to lose the breath for a second, but that's not the end of the world. Again, I could have pressed that myself, but I don't want you to be confused. And then continue. And if you maintain this, all your dots are running. Front ones are about to go. Venomous Claw is going to stagger ever so slightly, but you can fire that before you swap bars if you really need to. Whichever works for you. Essentially, there's no right or wrong for that, but you are going to have to watch your resources. So if you're really, really good at tracking skills, great. If not, do one rotation with the dots, one rotation with the spam, one rotation with the dots, one rotation with the spam. It depends on the player. It is a more advanced build, so you are going to have to micromanage a lot of different things. But if you want to keep it simple, there's no harm in it. You're not going to lose a massive amount of DPS. Anyway, It's time for fashion now, I guess. So we are taking advantage of an actual ornament piece here, or a special item. I usually use the mask, which has got a skull on it. That's not important for now because I don't remember what it's called and I don't have it on this server. But we are using the Ancestral Breton hat for this one. You can use whatever you like, really, just as long as his eyes are shown because he looks mega. It's a VMOL skin, by the way. We are using Fanglair Jack, which is a medium, I think. Yes, it is. We're using the Dromaphra shoulders, which is heavy. Dromaphra hands, which are medium. Dromaphra belt, which is light. Dromaphra feet, which is also medium. And the legs are Thieves Guild heavy. Those kind of camo-y looking ones are Thieves Guild heavy. The weapons we're using are Buoyant Armature daggers, but you can use whatever you like. I like the Troll King ones, actually. The axes, they're pretty cool, but I don't have them on this server. And the bow is the True Sworn bow. He's got some poisony things on the back, which makes sense towards the build. And that's about it. Hopefully that helps. I can appreciate that the rotation may appear confusing to start with, but it will be on the website, don't worry. If you're experienced, you probably picked it up straight away. Great. If you're not, don't worry. Take your time. Just maintain your damage over time abilities. Rapid strikes first, dot second. Keep up your back bar stuff. As long as you keep it as simple as that, you're still going to do damage regardless. And you just got to make sure you keep up your light attacks. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you are not subscribing on YouTube, hit that button. It is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside the channel, there are some links, of course, in the description for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the website xynodegaming.com, Twitch, where you can find me live streaming every day except for Wednesday, and of course, Patreon, where you get access to the private Discord server and lots and lots of other perks if you want them regarding content, including one-to-one sessions, early access to build videos, and much, much more. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.